friends, have you ever read through the Old Testament and then wondered what on earth does it mean and what does it have to do with me? Well, it has a lot to do with you. It's written down for you as examples and warnings. That's what the New Testament tells us. So in this series, I'm helping us try to figure out what those things are that we need to pay attention to and how to apply them to our life. Today, we're going to look at Job chapters 17 to 24 and also Psalm 119 verses 1 to 96. In these chapters, Job's friends move in their discourse from, listen, you might have sinned and you need to repent, and that's why you've been having these troubles, to outright, you are wicked, and here's a horrible description of what God's going to do to you, as if what he's gone through already is not enough. It's understandable how, in the face of this, Job sinks even further into depression. However, as terrible as attacks are against him, both from the devil and now his friends, Job still refuses to curse God. For sure, he's blaming God, but he's not cursing him, and he's ultimately not losing his hope in him. He says, I know I will see God. It's so inspiring. After Bildad blasts Job harshly, Job continues to defend his innocence and provides startling prophetic revelation about the Messiah. In chapter 19:25, he says, but as for me, I know that my Redeemer lives, and he will stand upon the earth at last. Psalm 44:22 says, but for your sake, we are being killed every day. We are being slaughtered like sheep. You know, Job felt like he was being absolutely slaughtered with persecution, misunderstanding, arrogance, and a total lack of empathy on the part of his friends. What he probably would have liked to have his friends say is, I don't understand why this is happening, but I'm here for you. Or perhaps, Job, no matter what it looks on the outside, God is for you, not against you. But he didn't get that. It took some time for Job to see this truth played out, but he discovered that nothing could separate him from God's love. His friends even thought that he had been separated from God's love, but he wasn't. His friends were trying to separate him from God's love, but they couldn't. Satan was certainly doing everything he could within God's limits that he placed to separate Job from the love of God. But he was ultimately unsuccessful. Job remained in love with God, and God remained in love with Job. You should know he does the same for you. So the link is in Romans 8:35 to 37. Can anything ever separate us from Christ's love? Does it mean he no longer loves us if we have trouble or calamity or are persecuted or hungry or destitute or in danger or threatened with death? As the scriptures say, for your sake we are killed every day. We are being slaughtered like sheep. No, despite all these things, overwhelming victory is ours through Christ who loved us. Next, Zophar and Eliphaz take their turns blasting Job. After Zophar speaks, Job says in chapter 21, verse 4, it's not you I'm complaining to, it's God. Is it any wonder I'm getting fed up with his silence? How often do we get fed up with God's silence, or what we suppose to be his silence? Probably anytime we don't hear an answer to our prayer for longer than a few minutes. However, God has things to teach us in these silent periods, one of which is for us to get to the end of ourself, including our complaints, our frustrations, and our trying to make God do what we want when we want it. By the end of chapter 23, I feel like Job is beginning to lose steam. I noticed how Job's perspective on the wicked is completely different from his friends' perspectives. The friends go on and on about how horribly the wicked are going to be judged by God, which they will. But Job says, and from what he can see on the earth, no, they live a complete life of ease, and God pays no attention at all to their wickedness. He just lets them do whatever they want, and then they all end up in the grave, laying right next to the righteous people. Job doesn't yet have an understanding of eternity, and that even if it appears that the wicked are prospering in this earthly life, they definitely will not in the next life. It can be really hard to hold on to our hope for reward for righteousness if we don't keep our eyes on eternity. Another thing I noticed is the complete fiction that Eliphaz speaks against Job. Where is he getting these ideas about the things that Job has done? I actually laughed out loud at the ridiculous tirade. Thankfully, Job counters it in chapter 23, 10-12, when he responds, "For I have stayed on God's path. I have followed his ways and not turned aside. I have not departed from his commands, but have treasured his words more than my daily food." Psalm 119, verse 72 says, "Now give me the sense to follow your commands." The longest chapter in the Bible, Psalm 119, is all about commands, decrees, regulations, and laws of God. Here's what I noticed about how the psalmist declares how he feels about God's law. He eagerly and determinedly hurries to keep them and keeps on keeping them carefully and consistently, practices them. He learns and obeys and recites and rejoices over and studies and reflects and delights in and meditates on and clings to and longs for and trusts in and loves and desires and honors and pursues and believes in and doesn't forget and doesn't turn away and closely follows them. He views them as valuable, fair, eternal, firm, trustworthy, remaining true, and unlimited. And he asks God to teach him the commands, to make him walk along the path of his commands, to open his eyes to see how wonderful they are, to give him the sense to follow them, to help him understand their meaning, and then to expand his understanding. He considers it a privilege to know God's instructions, be faithful to them, and hide them in his heart. He sees that they bring joy, keep him pure, revive him, make him happy, give him life, sustain him, reassure him of God's character, renew his life with goodness, cause him to walk in freedom, and firmly anchor him. The link is in Matthew 4:4, where Jesus tells the devil, no, the scriptures say people do not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. Well, that's all for today. For further study, I've put some scriptures for you in the description of this video. Until next time, I'll be praying for you to receive revelation about your covenant with God. Have a blessed week.